Good evening or buonasera. Today we have an AMA, an Ask Me Anything session. So I don't have any material prepared for tonight. The goal is just answer any question you might have about project management, program management, career, anything else. I mean, any topic that you believe I can have an opinion on. I'm happy to share my opinion on some. My opinion might not be uh, as credible on other topics, but in general, I'm happy to answer almost any question. Okay, I think we can start with the question. I can just break the ice with one of those that I receive offline, while you all type your question in the chat. Uh, so the first one I would like to answer is how how do you manage your stress level at work? Specifically, how to avoid burnout and how to manage the imposter syndrome. Those are um, so. Um, let's split this. I think we touched in the past about this. How to manage stress at work is very personal. You have to figure out how much stress you can cope. There are people who prefer to work for a lot of time and having meeting back to backs, work for consecutive hours, and then take time before or after work to just relax or spend time with family and friends. There are others that prefer to just um, have long days of work, maybe start early and finish not too early, but having many breaks in the middle, right? It's very personal. What I would recommend is work at the pace that you feel comfortable with. It has to be sustainable. It's always, and that's very common, that we all have to do some sprints at work. Sometimes we have difficult periods and we have to stretch ourselves and work much more than we would like to. But at the end, uh, it has to be sustainable. It's okay if you overwork for a period of time uh, because the company you work for asks you to do it, or because is your decision. Just to give you an example, you decide, oh, I want to go for promo, right? I want to go for promotion. I know that I have to achieve or complete these 3 4 projects to have some chances to go for promo. You know what? I'm just going to work hard in the next 3 to 6 months because I really want to get promoted. It's fine. It's your decision. You put some extra effort. You might or might not get the promotion, but what is important is that you come up with something that is sustainable. If your work pace is unsustainable and you keep stretching yourself, then you will get into the risk of burnouts, right? And I'm not a doctor. I can't share any recommendation on how to prevent this from a medical point of view. But what I can tell you is that my personal secret is trying to make this sustainable. Anytime I um, take a new job, or anytime I just maybe I'm in a difficult period at work, I still try to carve out some time in my calendar to do some activity that will just give me energy. Because at the end of the day, for me personally, is about energy. So if I do something that I like, I usually get energy. If I do something that I don't like, I consume energy. And sometimes there might be things you do at work that are giving you energy because they're things you enjoy. But many times you have to do stuff at work that is stressful, or maybe things that you don't really like, and those things are consuming energy. So you need to balance this activity to be sure that this is sustainable. So this is my personal approach to avoid burnout. Then, in general, there are difficult periods, and during those difficult periods, you might feel more stress, um, and it might be much more difficult to find time to do something else that is recovering energy. But try hard. That's really, really important for you to uh, stay safe at work. The second part of the question was about the imposter syndrome. Um, how do you manage the imposter syndrome? I think it's pretty normal when you get into a new job. It's natural to compare yourself with your peers, and in many cases it's easy to feel that they are all superstars and you're not at their level. One of the reason can be that they have been around for a longer time, they understand everything, and in any job, new job, there is a barrier at the beginning where you have to learn the jargon, you have to learn about the technical stack, you have to learn about the people, you have to build a network in the company. So at the beginning everything will just look much more difficult, and it will look like you are slower than all your peers at getting things done. My recommendation is step back a little bit, and pause a second when you believe you're an imposter. Pause a second. Remind yourself that you got hired and you were interviewed, and you most probably did pretty good job during the interviews. Um, Time to time there are still false positives in the recruiting process, but in general you're there because you did some good stuff for the interviewing process. And then look at your peers and trying to figure out if what you have done that they don't, or what you have done that they also did, and that will allow you to say, okay, maybe today in this new job I'm not as fast as or as good as them, but most probably I have the knowledge that is needed to do well in this job. And then you will see that over time this imposter syndrome will just disappear. um, okay, let me pick something from the live question. This is interesting one. Are you self-employed now? What do you do? So I'm currently working as advisor for uh, tech startups. So yes, technically I'm self-employed. I'm also doing consultation for some other companies, like mm, consulting firms, investment firms on specific technology related topics. So, yes, I'm self employed. Although I have to say that um, I like working with startups as an advisor. I also like working as consultant on this specific, I mean, these technology related topics. But what I don't like of being a self-employed is the business development part. So I don't know how long it will be sustainable for me to keep doing this. In the sense that so far I got a lot of the work I'm doing is coming from my network. Uh, at some point, I will just need to go out and search for new customers or new clients, and that's the part that I really don't like. I'm not the person sending cold emails to sell services. So for now, yes, I am self-employed, but I have to say that if the right job with the right role will show up and there's something that I want to do and there's a full-time job, I might consider, maybe I would keep some of the advisor role because I really enjoy doing it, but I would also move the majority of my time to a full-time employee job. But that's my it's just a realization that I don't want to do business development. It's not that I don't like or I have anything about being self-employed. Uh, let's see this one from Buddy. It happens that you wake up not wanting to go to work even for several days. How to overcome the moment? Uh, is I know the feeling is usually related to not being happy at work. What I would recommend is figure out why you don't want to go to work. And many of us are in the lucky position that we're not working uh, to get food. We of course work to get food, but at the end of the day, it's not that we can't miss one day of work. There are options to detach from work, whether are holidays or sometimes also medical leaves. So if you really, really feel that that's not the right thing for you, you might also consider leaving the job and looking for a new job. The it's I would recommend to figure out what is the root cause to understand why you feel that way. So, is the root cause you're just working on the wrong project? Then maybe you can discuss with your manager or someone else and get assigned to a different project. Is it your feeling because you feel that you are now in a comfort zone and you go to work and you learn nothing? Maybe you can figure out how to get your hands in a different area or to learn something different. So, I would say the root cause is key here. So try to identify why you feel that way. Maybe your manager is a hassle, right? And is giving you hard time at work. That's that the solution is maybe changing team to change manager or ultimately change company. Uh, so my recommendation is try to understand why you feel that way, especially if you feel it for several days in a row, and then you try to come up with something different to do to change the feeling. Okay, Ilpol 23. What are the qualities and technical competencies big companies look for in interest new grads? It depends. It depends on roles. I assume here that we are speaking about most probably is we, so a software engineer role, because we're speaking about technical competencies. So, what usually, and that's not only true for interns, or in general true when big companies are hiring, they look for the foundation of the knowledge. So you need to know very well the core part of the topic. So let's say you want to work on AI, you might have some knowledge of AI, right? The foundation. Um, and then, because of course the competition is tough, right? So there will be maybe 1,000 people applying for that job. So just having the foundation might not be enough. What are the things that really allow you to be perceived as better than the competition? Are special projects. For instance, you can say, okay, as a side project, I contributed to this open source project, right? Here, the link to the repository. Or, oh, this is the app I published, right? I was the only developer, or I was one of the developer, and this is the app I published. Or this is a project that I don't know, is a no profit project that I was contributing to, so on and so forth. So to summarize, they look for the knowledge. So you need to show that you have the skill set to operate in that role, but then to be perceived as better than the all other people applying, it's useful to come up with things that are outside of the standard curriculum, right? That you will learn at university. Like you usually the best thing to do is to have projects, additional projects that you contributed to, that you can show, and the people will appreciate your contribution. Okay. uh let's see. Hero Relax, I like this name, Hero Relax. So he's asking, my girlfriend is studying for the admission in a management master program abroad. The only issue is that she's not sure if this is the right path for her. Is there anything she can do to remove some uncertainty? What do you do when you're taking important decision to be less worried about the possible negative outcomes? Thank you for the time. So, Hiro, first thing, I don't remember having any certainty in the first 25 years of my life. I mean, jokes apart, I never knew what I wanted to do. I always said, oh, I like computers, so I will go for computer science. But I have to say, at some point, I also said, I like numbers and math. So maybe economic, I mean, some economics or related to in that field might be the good thing for me, right? So I ended up in computer science and I'm super happy. But it's difficult to have certain. That's what I'm saying is that someone I have met very few people saying, oh, at the age of 15 I already knew what my career would have looked like. That was not my case. So I can tell you the way I approached this decision. I always try to put the positive and negative um, aspect of any decision and try to score them, right? So, and usually on the negative side, you might have risks, things that can go wrong. Okay. So I said, okay, what are the pros and cons of taking this management master program abroad? Maybe on one side, the content, maybe the content is very good. Uh, Going abroad, if it's first time for her living abroad, that's big advantage. The network, you might start building an international network. What are the cons? Oh yeah, I have to move away from family and friends. I have to figure out how to survive in a foreign country, and so on and so forth. Right? You list them and you try to figure out if what you see on the pro side is justifying the cons or the risk. Then go for it. If something you have in the cons is absolutely a no go because something you never ever you're not willing to accept, then you should not go, right? Because otherwise you're going uh, in a situation where you have a risk that you're not willing to take, and that's not an easy situation to be. So that's my recommendation, to just make a little bit of analytical approach to make a decision. And there will always be risk and things can always go wrong, but you have to take the decision that is most likely to give a positive outcome. There's no decision. I mean, there are very few decisions where you are certain about having a positive outcome. Okay, next one is life in loading. In your opinion, what impact does a PhD, both technical and non technical, have on a person's career? When do you think it makes sense to pursue one to boost the career path? Okay, let's start by saying that I don't have a PhD. When I completed my master degree, I was asked if I wanted to start a PhD. It was a difficult decision. Uh, at the end, I decided to not pursue the PhD and take a job. And at the end, I'm happy on how things evolve. But in general, I believe that a PhD is a big asset. Um, it has to be in the area you want to really focus your career, and it has to be maybe on a project that is worth spending multiple years as a research project. That said, I think is in general, especially abroad, um, internationally, is very recognized as in terms of career. So usually, a PhD, the years you spend in a PhD is kind of equivalent, if not better, than the same amount of years spent in a job, right? It might varies company to company, but in general, I would say a PhD is giving you a boost in your career with a caveat that it has to be on the right project. If you do that on the research on a topic that nobody care, then you might not get this boost. But in general, it's very unlikely to happen. Okay, Andrea Calca. If you feel that you deserve a salary increase promotion, how do you handle it with your manager? It's a difficult topic. It belongs to the salary negotiation. It largely depends on the company. So in some companies, there is a periodic window, once a year, twice a year, when all the salary increases are distributed. And so if you are in one of those company, you know that you need to have the discussion ahead of that period. In general, I would very openly approach your manager. The fundamental question I would ask as a manager is, why do you feel you deserve salary increase or a promotion? How do you know that you deserve it? Right? Um, and maybe sometime the best way to approach this, because it's more humble way to approach this topic, is to approach your manager and said, hey, I would really like a promotion or a salary increase. What do you think I should do to get there? Right? Rather than showing up and pretending that you deserve it, that maybe you are completely right, but might be perceived on the other side as not the most humble approach to this discussion. And you risk that your manager is saying, hey, come on, I know when you deserve it, go back to your desk, right? And don't bother me. I hope that's not happening, but it could happen. So, in general, I would approach in a more proactive, humble way and say, hey, I would really like to, what do you think I have to do more than what I'm doing today to get a promotion? And then you get into a very uh, concrete discussion with your manager. Maybe your manager will say, oh, you have to show more leadership, or you have to deliver a bigger project, or you have to finish the project that you're delivering now. Now you have a very concrete thing you can do to get the salary increase. It's not a guarantee that you will get it, but now the next time you will go back, you said, hey, 3 months ago we discussed that thing. I have completed it. Am I ready now for promotion? Usually at this point the manager might be much more willing to discuss your promotion, except if something changed in the meanwhile, but usually in general that's a good way to handle this discussion. Okay, Ilpol 23. How important is it to have a referral to get a job in FANG? In case, what is the best way to get it? So, how important is it? It depends company to company. In general, what it does is that um, it your CV will end up kind of at the top of the pile of the CV they're receiving. On some roles, they might receive hundreds. So being on top might be an advantage. It doesn't help you with getting a job you're not qualified to. You need to be qualified and you still have to pass all the interviews. Uh, but what is really helping is that you might be the first one to be seen by the recruiter rather than the last one. In some FANG, the other advantage is that because of these volumes, many times you apply for a role and you never hear back, which is very annoying. As a hiring manager, I always reply back uh, to candidates when I decline their application, even if it's just a canned email. So it's just the same email copy pasted over and over. I just send an email saying, "I'm sorry, this time you have not been selected." So people know that they have been rejected, right? And that's it. Um, I think is a nice thing to do. But I know that in many cases you don't hear anything. They just don't reply you. So you never know if they look at your CV or if they never got to you. Uh, when you have a referral, uh, many companies commit to come back to you within 2 weeks with an answer. So it's a guarantee that you will hear from them. It's not a guarantee that you will hear a positive thing, but you will hear for sure. uh, and in case, what is the best way to get it? Either you know someone, or you can reach out to people in the company. Maybe look up on LinkedIn if you can find someone with a second connection. Reach out and ask if they're willing to give you a referral. In general, people tend to be willing to do it, so they are usually okay with giving you a referral. Um, yeah. Next, Defla 94. What strategy or best practices are adopted to ensure the success of a project and careers in the field of technology? Okay, this is a very broad one. Um, let's start with what strategies or best practices are adopted to ensure the success of projects. Um, I mean, there are really a lot of best practices in different way. What I would say is, um, the most important is, if you're new and you're trying to put together a project, try to follow the company best practices. You will see, company by company, different approaches, different tools, different ways to handle escalation, different ways to handle change management, different ways to handle stakeholder management. Try to align with those, because usually they are well known, and they will allow you to get through those in shorter times and with better results. And so this is the very high level answer to how to get to success of project. But it's a topic that we can discuss for hours. There are million of best practices in different areas of project delivery that we can discuss. And when it comes to careers in the field of technology, um, my my recommendation is, identify what you want to do and prepare yourself for it. So if you want to succeed in any tech company, uh, you have to be prepared for the work you want to do, and you have to spend energy and time to be prepared. It's not that you will just, because the problem is the competition. So if there are hundreds of people applying to the same job and there is one position available, you really have to be the best of the hundreds that are applying. um, and so to do so, you you need to prepare. You need to figure out what is needed in that role. And preparing doesn't just mean studying project or program management, right? In If you want a project manager role, it means also understand the culture, understand the process, figure out how the interviews are done, figure out how to get more attention from recruiter when you submit your CV, so on and so forth. And then once you get in, then the career evolution within the company is is your responsibility to drive it, right? It's not going to be your manager making you through the different steps and getting you promoted. Your manager is there to coach you, to mentor you, to help you, but the final responsibility is your responsibility. You have to think about, okay, what else I can do here, to or what is part of my the expectation for my role that I can improve, that I'm not doing great, right? And so by keep improving, you will progress in your career. Okay, Andrea, how do you calculate the fee for your self-employed job? Uh, okay, so it want to be generic question for different job sectors. So in general, there are two things to consider. One is the market price. Let's say I teach tennis lessons and everyone else is asking 50 euros per hour, and I go out and ask 500 euros per hour. Now, maybe I'm Roger Federer and I can do that and people will still pay, but I have to be careful. If I'm too much of an outlier in terms of a fee, then the risk that very few will be able to pay for that service, or very few will be willing to pay for that service, is high. So first thing to take into consideration is what is the fair market price for that type of work. And you can easily find, I mean, look up for people doing what you want to do, and at some point you will find how much they get paid for. The other thing is how much you want to be paid. I give you the previous example. Now, okay, I understood. I have to ask 100 euros for as a tennis coach, but I don't really want to work for less than 200. I might have personal reason. Maybe that's my cost of living, right? They are too high, and I have to sustain this. There might be various reasons. Maybe it's just a personal decision. Uh, So now I might decide. I know that the others are charging 100, but I still charge 200 because I don't want to work for less than 200, right? Or maybe in the past I always charged 200, right? So I feel that 200 is the right price to charge, even if everyone else is asking 100 now. There might be personal reasons. What I would say is try to understand the market and try to understand your personal uh, consideration on the topic, and then you decide for a fee. And usually you don't go out with a single fee, right? You might have different fees based on the volume of work you're asked, based on the type of engagement. It's different if you're asked for one single one shot 1 hour versus, oh, can you work for us 10 hours per week, right, for a year? It's completely different volume. You might decide to go for a discount on such a volume, and so at the end the fees might vary. Uh, oh, Joy is asking, will you do other CV review? I Yes, I wanted to do something slightly different. I don't want to commit now. I'm telling you, but I don't want to commit because I don't know. I have a lot of recruiters in my network from tech companies, uh, various, almost all big fang, and I wanted to see if I can convince one or two of them to join live and do the CV review together with me. So I want to bring a real recruiter here to do the CV review. Uh, I haven't reached out to any of them. I might do that. I think it will be more fun. But definitely, yes, I'll do another CV review if there is enough interest. Okay, next. Okay, and Andra is asking, I work in a multinational corporation, 3,000 people, semiconductor industries, as ML, so machine learning engineer. I'm near to the CTO and the CEO. My project will become a program and I'll become program owner. Any advice? Congratulations. The first thing is congratulations. Uh, my advice is, if you're completely new, maybe spend a little bit of time um, learning some foundational knowledge around project and program management. Uh, there are multiple things. Depending, I guess that in the machine learning engineer, you're not going to use waterfall. So maybe in the agile. Jordan last week mentioned the PMI ACP, if I'm correctly, agile core partitioner. There is a PMI certification. He spent very good words about it. Otherwise, there are also things like the Google Project Management course on Coursera. There are many content online just to learn the terminology, learn some best practices, start learning a little bit of how the different tool and parts of project and program management are. And then I guess if you're really very near to the CTO and the CEO, you already have the personal relationship. You are just growing into the role, which is the best way to get into project and program management. And so by bringing this knowledge that you can acquire by doing this course, you might apply what is needed. My most probably the most important recommendation for you is don't go take a course, go back to the company and apply everything you learn in the course. Don't do that. Go take a course or a certification, learn stuff, go back, look at your situation, and decide which tool and which part of what you learn makes sense to apply. If you go back and apply everything on that situation, you will be perceived as just a red taper, a bureaucratic person applying processes for the sake of applying processes, right? While if you go back and said, okay, I learned 100 things, I believe that in this specific situation we need these two. Let's try. Maybe we start with one, we see how it goes, and then we try the other, and we see how it goes. If we like both, and you tune from there. That's my recommendation, especially because as I read this question, I believe that the company is new to project and program management. So start introducing them step by step. Don't introduce too many things all together. Otherwise, people will start to resist because they will feel this is just bureaucracy. Um, okay. MCRSN 0. Wow, that's an interesting Mac Rins. No, I don't know. Interesting name. Do you have experience in managing research teams in funks? How is it PM handled in that area? Could you share us something about how research goes in that companies? No, I haven't managed research teams. I work with some research team at Google, but I haven't managed them. The program management, I know people working in program management in the research areas is very similar. There is less of to the other areas of Google. There is less focus on launching a project because usually research has this long lasting research initiatives. So they have less pressure to deliver something specific like a new product feature or a new product, but they still have roadmaps, they still have plans to deliver specific research findings or insights that might be used by other parts of the company. Um, yeah. Okay. Angelo checked. What is the best way to make deliberate English learning something different from classic cliches such as Netflix, Cambly, travel? Uh, to me, I'm not particularly good with languages. I have to say, for me, learning English has been most probably the most difficult thing I've done in terms of learning. In my life, I tried everything. Uh, Reading books in English, um, traveling, I mean, studying abroad. I tried to make foreign friends. I got into, before going myself to the Erasmus exchange program, I just went to the office hosting the Erasmus students from the other countries in my university, and I start having engaging in discussion with these people. Um, Watching movies never worked for me because my especially at the beginning. Now I have no problem watching a movie in English, but back in the days I was not able to follow. So either I was watching a movie with subtitle titles and I was reading all time, or without subtitle I was not able to really follow the movie. So Netflix or movies in general never work for me. Uh, Speaking with people, especially in informal setups, like I don't know, imagine you have foreigner students and you have to take them around the first week and show them the best place to go and have fun in the evening and drink something. It's very informal. You go around, you drink together, you speak English, and you don't care if you make mistakes because you're just speaking with friends. Is easy, is easy to get the ball rolling. That was the easiest thing for me. uh, okay. Uh, let's see. What impact can this is life in loading asking what impact can proficiency in multiple languages have on project managers' career in a multilingual company? I feel that being able to communicate in the native language of the person people in front of you put them in a better position to express themselves. It could also be something that makes a better impression on the people you work with, and in this case, it's a good investment a manager can make to achieve better results in the long term. So, as I said, languages are not my thing. So, I was always lucky to be in international companies where everyone was speaking English, including at a coffee machine, not just in meetings. Everywhere, people around the company were speaking English. I mean, there were, of course, exceptions. If two people from the same country speak to each other, they were maybe speaking the local language. But as soon as someone else was approaching it, they were switching to English. So that was always uh, for me the case. So I never had to. But I know that there are some realities where there are still meetings in local languages, and they might have a meeting in English if someone who doesn't speak the local languages in the meeting, but is clearly something that they don't like. And so they put you in a kind of discomfort because you know they have to switch to English only for you. And as soon as they can, they will switch back to local, so to the local language, and you might miss some important information. In that situation, I would consider learning the local language. But in general, if you're working in a multicultural international company and your role does not require to speak any other language, then I don't see, I will not invest too much into learning a new language, or at least not specifically uh, for a career progression. Joe Kucha, in your opinion, do remote workers have the same chances to get promoted as office worker? That's an interesting one. And I need to drink some water. It should not, but the reality is that in a fully remote company, this is of course not the case. But in companies where you have people, a mix of people in the office and remote people, it's much easier not just to get promoted, it's not that, but it's much easier to get visibility by being in the office. This is also true for people working in a large international company and not being in the headquarters. I had the same experience at Google. I mean, I am in Zurich, and Zurich is the largest engineering office outside of the United States for Google. So it's a pretty large and important site, but still, all the most senior executives are in the Bay Area. So when either you travel a lot, or very senior executives, e- exec will get more, let's say, other people will get more exposure to them because they are on the same side. So if they work closely to them, they might have more opportunity to speak to them. And so over the time, they will get much more visibility for their work. And so it's easier for them to get promoted. That's exactly the same as people that are in the office and remote worker. It's not the remote worker are less productive, it's just they might get less visibility for their work. That's why I would say if you're a remote worker and the rest of your team is in the office, maybe it's worth going to the office time to time. You decide how often, but I would say if it's not too far, at least once a month, you should show up so that they don't forget about your face, they don't forget about you, and you start because the other thing is that people will just bounce into each other in a corridor or in the hallway, and they will speak about work, and because you're never there, you will miss all those discussions. And so being there time to time is going to be very productive for your career. Next, from Deflan 94, how do you tackle the challenge of selecting the best strategies, methodologies, and tools at the beginning of a project to maximize the chances of success? What would you suggest to a PM on his her first project? Um, um, Lesson learned. I mean, if you're within a company, learn everything you can from other ongoing project. So, for instance, first project, work with a senior project who has experience at that company. Ask to maybe you can just shadow him, right, or her. You can just look at what they are doing in another project, understand how they are doing different things. Try to not reinvent the wheel. Don't just one of the things that is most probably the most common pitfall, especially for people that just took a certification or just completed some sort of big training, is, oh, I learned all these new things, let me apply all of them at this project. Right, and so you show up first project and you come with a lot of new tools, with a lot of new technologies, with a lot of new methodologies. Maybe they're all valuable, but they're not a fit for the company, or they're not a fit for that specific project. So just by being conservative and reusing as much as possible of what exists, start learning from others before changing anything. Before changing, if it's your first project, first take the way people are running the project at that company, use it, and then over time you will feel the pain of the parts that are not working well, or you will learn new ways of doing things, and you will improve them. Don't start from scratch with new stuff. uh, okay, Defla 94, in an environment like Google or other big tech, how would you describe the dynamics of relationship among colleagues? Is it an environment in which a friendly atmosphere that promotes personal connection prevail, or is it primarily focused on professional growth and teamwork? Okay, it largely depends. It largely depends on teams. It largely depends on the individual. As in any large company, there are, I would not, I would say, individuals or teams where, unfortunately, the competition between team member exists. But in general, my experience at Google, I always work in teams where we were all working together to achieve the goal. In fact, what the interesting thing is that, at least that was in the past at Google. I don't know if it's still true, but in the past, you see these promotions landing almost as a team. Something like 80% of the team got promoted. 50 or 60% of another team got promoted. The reason is that it's not the individual who did exceptional work, is the team launched something like an incredible new feature, or the team delivered something really amazing. And so the individuals there, by showing their contribution to the big achievement, they got promoted. So sometimes it's much more convenient for everyone, beside the fact that being friendly with each other and have a very nice atmosphere is the reason that I actually like working in a team, and I think the majority of the people like to work in such atmosphere. But in general, is also the most effective way to get promoted in some situation. So being just a lone wolf and doing your stuff and not speaking with anyone and pretending that nobody is speaking to you might not be as effective as collaborating with the others to get the product launched. Okay, Flot 3.14. What are your thoughts on meets expectations? Some tips to perform well and not to be disorganized. Okay, my thoughts about meeting expectation is, first thing, you have to understand expectation. I know that this sounds obvious, but in many cases is not. It's not obvious. People don't understand what they are expected to do, um, either because they haven't spent enough time understanding the expectation for your job role, or because many times the expectations are very vague because they are designed for large companies, and so applying there is some level of interpretation, right? So the best way is to speak directly with your manager. Said, hey, what do you think are the expectation for the next 6 months? What are my expectation for the next 6 months, right? And your manager will tell you, I expect you to do X, Y, Z. That's sometimes a very easy discussion and will allow you to have clear objective. Otherwise, you risk to, sorry, the risk is that you spend a lot of time doing things that might not be perceived as part of your expectation. It's something that you believe were part of your expectation, but the reality is that they were not. And as a result, you might not be get recognized for those efforts. Uh, some teams to perform well and not to be disorganized. I mean, understand your expectation, make a plan, maybe share the plan with your manager, and then execute it. And when you need help, ask for help. That's one of the things that especially the more junior people struggle with. Escalation is not something that is not a signal of failure. Escalating to your manager, asking for help, means that you understood that things were not going well and you flagged that to your manager because things got got very very bad. And what happened is that usually more junior people don't want to ask for help because they believe that's a failure. So they wait. And while they could have asked for help and fixed the situation with little effort from the manager, they wait till the complete things blow up. And then the manager realized, but then at that point, it's too late to fix it. Right. So don't feel ashamed asking for help or escalating to your manager is a good thing to do. Okay. Ilpol 23. Uh, do you feel like the culture mentality in Fang is decreasing after all this layoff? By the way, thanks for today and yesterday. Okay. Um, do you feel like the culture mentality in Fang is decreasing after all this layoff? Uh, there is a cultural problem. Now, one of the main problem of the layoff is not that you are terminating some of your employees that hopefully you identified using some, let's say, fair process. The problem is that everyone else is staying at the company will feel moving forward that they could be the next one. Even if you explain them that you only terminated the people that were hired in the last year, or terminated only the worst performer, or you terminated only the people in specific sites that you decided to close because the business in those areas were not uh, profitable anymore, whatever. You come up with the explanation, you give it to them, but consider that people who joined the FANG in the last 10 years have been living in this world where the company were always making money. Okay, and those companies had issues with too much positive cash flow for years, and they didn't know how to spend those money. And now suddenly, this is a realization that also those large company can have economical issues, right? So that's what is changing now. A lot of the employees in those large company realize that those company can have economical issues, and as such they realize that the company and the employees are not a family. They're it's a business, and when the situation in terms of business goes wrong, the company will put any corrective measure in place that they have to, including firing people. And so that's, I think, it's psychologically for many people is something that is very difficult to to understand and to accept, because they joined the company and they treated the company and the employees their colleagues as a family, and now they realize it's not a family. So that's I think is very difficult for many of those employees. Let's move to the personal side. Andrea Kalka asks, which is your favorite sport? Did you practice it? How is it useful for your work-life balance career? So my favorite sport, I always played racket sports. So I played tennis for many years. While I was at Google, I played squash for 10 years. Uh, I stopped playing squash right before the pandemic, and I did almost nothing for 3 years. Um, and now I want to try paddle. I tried once. I like it, so I think I will play again. So did you practice it? Is a little bit of I would like to. In the meanwhile, I'm going to the gym, not very often or not as often as I would like, but I try to go a couple of times per week. And it's very, very useful for my work life balance because first, it's it's there. I put it in my calendar, and I force myself to go to the gym. And then because it's there and it's recurrent, I also manage to just plan everything else, family wise and also work wise, to be sure that I have no conflict and I can go there. And in general, in work life balance, it helps because doing some physical activity uh, helps a lot. At least for me personal, it gives me a lot of energy, and it helps me be more productive. I don't think it helped in any way in my career, but ultimately, if I'm more productive at work, it's also helping my career. For sure, it makes me more happy, which is helping my career. Okay, the fly is asking if there hadn't been the COVID-19, do you think you would still be working at Google? No, no. I think my decision to leave was completely independently of the COVID. Uh, is it true? I don't know. I mean, so the reason I left is not because I have anything against Google. I still have a lot of friends working at Google, and I love to work again with many of them. I left because the role I had, I got into a comfort zone. I was just doing it as something that was didn't require me to learn new things or a lot of effort in building new skills. And so I like to be challenged and to learn new things at work. And so after a few months in this state, I realized that I wanted to do something else. And I didn't consider leaving Google till I received this um, director program management role at Kraken. I saw that and I said, wow, this is the combination of a company that I like in a sector in the crypto business that I really want to learn more. And the role is amazing because I'm just going to a company of 3,000 people to build completely from scratch their entire program management function. So the combination of these three said, okay, then it's time most probably to leave Google. I don't know. I don't think COVID-19 made any difference would have made any difference, but it's difficult to say. Maybe by being in the office, I would have been exposed to different project. I don't know. I can't say, but my first reaction is that no, COVID-19 didn't have anything to do with my decision. Uh, Shivolizia. Hi Marco, what do you think about having the monetary bonuses exclusively linked with OKRs? I'm not in a sales position. No, I think that's wrong. I think that's really wrong. I recently uh, wrote a post on LinkedIn about this. I actually reposted um an article from a very knowledgeable person. If you don't know Jim, look up the post on my LinkedIn. Jim is one of the founder of the Agile methodology. Uh, he posted something about using the velocity as a performance metric, and I think what I added on top of it is that also other type of metrics like OKR, completion rate, is used if they're used as the only way to assess performance, they're wrong. They're wrong because they incentivize the wrong behaviors. If I give you an OKR and I tell you you will get as a bonus multiplier the score, guess what? You will do whatever is needed to just get to the highest score of the OKR. And that means that you are going to most probably uh, sacrifice other important aspect just to get to the maximum possible score. So giving a single metric to any individual is always wrong. Giving an operational metric like OKR and use it as a performance metric is just going to defeat the purpose of having OKRs. People will just optimize for the short term, and you will never get to your long-term business objectives. At least not in the way you were initially planning. Uh, Albi Crescini. Hi, Marco. Any opinion about solution architect roles and possible switch across Fang? In general, so solution architect, and I mean, last week we had Jordan Janeiro, who was kind of a was called customer engineer, but I believe it's kind of belong to the same area. What I mean by solution architect are those roles that work with usually with customers to design solutions using the company products. Um, I think those are very good roles. They tend to be on the external part of the company. So, for instance, if you think at Google, Um, what are the B2B products? Cloud, ads, a little bit. Then you have all the part about workspace, so Drive, Gmail, but those are more B2B solutions that are sold as it is. The only area, and I could be wrong here, but I believe that the only area where you see a lot of solution architects is Google Cloud because it's where you ship customized solution. Uh, so depends on the fang. I don't know if Meta, for instance, has many solution architect. Companies like Microsoft, Oracle's, they have plenty of them because they ship all this IBM, they ship a lot of this custom solution. In general, I think solution architect is a very valuable role and require a lot of skill in terms of technical understanding, but also leadership skill because you have to discuss with customers. So I think you can reuse those skills. They are transferable to other roles as well. So maybe you can't move as a solution architect, but you might be able to move to a software engineer role, and by reusing your technical and leadership skill, you acquire in a solution architect. Difla 94. What is your main career goal? Um, do you see yourself as CEO of some consolidated company, not startup? Um I don't know. I don't know. Uh, my career goal at this stage. So I've been for many years pushing to get promotion, right, and to increase my seniority. Currently, I want to work with stuff that I'm passionate about, and I care more about working on a company in a company with the right product that I really like than going for the one that will give me uh, the easiest way to get promoted. I don't see myself as a CEO of a large company. Uh, to be honest, I don't think I have the skill set. I don't have the skill set at the moment for a large company. I could be a startup for a CEO for a startup. That's absolutely, I can do that today. But for a large company, I might need, I mean, large, I mean, in the order of thousands of people um, or more. I would need more experience. Um, at the moment, my career goal is to keep working on stuff I like and trying to have a good uh, work-life balance and maintain it. What are OKRs? Hero Relax. That's a very interesting question. Maybe we can have a live about OKRs. OKRs stand for Objective and Key Results. Is a methodology using many tech company. Google is using it, for instance, and it it's a methodology used for planning. So you have objective, you have key results, and you measure the completion rate of those objective and key results. If it's if you are interested, I can also we can also have maybe not an entire live, but a part of a live. We can discuss OKRs. Joe Kuch is asking, have you ever thought about going back to Google? If so, it would be possible. Oh, absolutely. I always think about going back to Google. Will it be possible? Yes, it would be possible. If technically within a year, you can go back at the same level in any team. I mean, I was a program manager. I can go back as a program manager, same level I was when I left without any interview. I heard rumors that the 1 year is a little bit of a weak requirement, in the sense that if it's 16 or 18 months, they might still allow you to go back without interviews. Um, One requirement is that you were marked as regretted leave. So when you leave the company, your manager has to say that he was sad that you left Google, and it's something that you have to enter in a tool as a manager. If your manager doesn't do that, then you're not going to be allowed to go back, because the manager said, "I'm happy that this person left Google." So is you're not allowed to go back. Um, yeah, I would love to. Google is not hiring much, and I'm not willing to relocate, so I'm not going to move from Zurich. But if, let's say, tomorrow they would publish a role which I like, I would definitely consider it. Okay, Johnny the Giant. It would be interesting to deepen OKRs, possibly compare with MBO. Okay, okay, we can. I'm not an expert on MBOs, but I'm. I don't know if I can call myself an expert, but I have experience with OKRs, so I would definitely. Um, I'm happy to spend time discussing OKRs for sure. Um, okay. What is the biggest mistake you have made at Google, and what is the most valuable lesson you have learned from it? I've made a lot of mistakes at Google. What is the biggest? Uh, okay, one mistake was once I changed team because I really like the project I was going to work on. My gut feeling, despite the fact that everyone was telling me positive thing about my new manager, I was getting the feeling that something would have not worked between us. I just ignored that feeling. I said, okay, you know what? Everyone is telling me that the manager is great and the project is really cool stuff I want to work on. I'm just going to accept the offer. I ended up with most probably the worst manager of my entire career. It was not fun. Uh, we were not getting along. We were seeing things in a very opposite ways. And then, of course, 6 months later, I changed team again. But that was most probably one of it was tough. It was 6 months, but it was tough. It was not. And so what I learned is that you have to. For me personally, a good manager is potentially more important than the right project. Oh, okay. It's definitely saying this is just okay. A career error. What about a daily job error? Okay, if you want something more tactical, I was a little bit uh, let's say I was very aggressive on filtering stuff. I don't know if that's what you're looking for. Tell me if this is too much tactical instead. I was very aggressive on filtering email. I had my email, my Gmail setup was really complex, and so because I was part of a lot of groups, I was kind of muting everything in many groups. Uh, what I didn't realize is that if you have a rule in Gmail, which is mute everything sent to this group, it doesn't matter what else. is in that email is going to be muted. So what happened is that one of the most senior vice president at Google at some point uh, asked me to advise on a request on one of those, because there were some question about something that my team was involved. And so this guy said, okay, Marco, can you please clarify? So he added me explicitly in the to list with this large email group. But me, because my rule was if an email is sent to this group, just mute it. I never read that email, and so because I had a good relationship with this person, he pinged me on chat and said, "Hey, Marco, I asked you something a week ago. If you don't mind having a look." But I realized that if it was someone else, and maybe it happened, and I didn't realize that, I would have make not the best, let's say, not a great career impression when a very senior VP asks you something and you just ignore them. I don't know if that's more in line with what. So I learned how to do this right with Gmail after that case. Yeah, not be never be too aggressive with filters. That's the thing. Okay. Hero Relax. What's your opinion on cloud data engineer roles? You said before that this is not really relevant position in some company. Is it easier a career in software engineer? Um, okay, depends. It depends. In the sense that um, if you, it depends what you want to do. If you are looking for a role which is exposed to clients, then solution architect or sales engineer uh, might be the right role for you. Usually, those roles comes with a little bit more stress because you have to deal with customers, and customers usually are not always easy to deal with. Um, but as an advantage, you build a network outside of your company, right? So you build a large network because you work with a lot of other companies. Um, you have to like it. You are exposed sometimes to dealing with situations that have very little to do with technical aspects and much more about power dynamics and negotiation and influencing than with technical aspect. If that is what you like, I think you should go for those roles. What I was saying before is not they are it's not that they are not a good choice. They are a good choice, but not all fan companies or will have it. I mean, they're not super common because a lot of the fan company are only delivering B2C, or the majority of their businesses is B2C. So those roles, those sales engineering roles, are more relevant in B2B um, businesses. So, for instance, Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, name one. The company is selling the big solution to companies. They have plenty of this role. You will find more of sales engineer role than software engineering role. If instead you are a person that prefer to just focus on building the products, then you should focus more on the software engineering, where you are within the company, you work to build the products, while role like sales engineer and solution architect are figuring out how to use those products in a way that will solve the customer request. Okay. Andra, resources on negotiation in the company. Not sure I understand. Can you elaborate a little bit? I can take another one. Oh, we don't have much time. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh no, this is different. Okay, I can take this from Hero. Andra, if you can elaborate a little bit more, I'm not sure I understand what you meant with your question. Um, Hero Relax is asking, I'm currently working for an IBM spin-off, but my dream was to get into Google sometimes. That's why I ask. Okay, yeah. So most probably moving from IBM, solution architect role could be very good. And you move to solution architect, and then you figure out it can be just one intermediate step if you want to end up as a software engineer, or maybe you realize that you want to stay as a solution architect because that's what you really like. Okay, Andrew. You mean how to negotiate in a company? Depends negotiating what. If you're negotiating your salary, uh, you have to negotiate with your manager. If you want to negotiate with customers, is a different story. In general, there are many ways to negotiate. My recommendation is um, when you are prepare any negotiation, try to prepare. There are some techniques. I don't have my negotiation book here, but there are many techniques. There are many books explaining negotiation. In general, prepare for the negotiation, understand what you want to get out, what you are willing to give away in the negotiation, and understand the person you are negotiating with. What are their constraints? What most probably are they willing to give you versus what they are not going um, to give you, and sometimes um, is not it might not be the most straightforward. Sometimes you have to come up with some creative solution, uh, but the goal at the end is to find a situation where you have kind of a win-win and so both you and the other party get some positive outcome of the negotiation. That's the ideal thing, and there's the most easy. If you see a scenario where you can get to a win-win, that's usually an easy negotiation because you can take the other party to a place where they want to be. Instead, in other cases, there is no win-win situation, and so it's more difficult. Okay, I think we are at the end of the live question. I took only one of the. I had around 15 that I receive offline. Okay, I'll park them for next time. Maybe we will do another Q&A at some point. So I hope this was useful. Um, as usual, I'm looking for requests and suggestions for uh, topics that we can discuss. Feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn, join Telegram, send it any way you want, but please let me know. And with this, I wish you a wonderful night. Uh, oh, Andra, before I go, oh, you want the book? Give me a second. I just take it. It's on the library over here. Okay. I found only this. But this is the name of the book. This guy, Stuart Diamond, is a very, very valuable speaker on negotiation. I would definitely recommend this. It's very nice because it will give you a lot of techniques um on how to negotiate in different scenarios. Cool. So I wish you a wonderful night, and we see each other next Monday. Thank you. Bye bye.